of the best strikers in the UFC. Like I said, I got a 17-year-old now, Natsu's younger brother, who's a monster, right? It feels like the Epstein files without the the sex, right? I'm getting their powers through sparring and training.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
What is up, guys? The doctor is back in the office, and today we are going to be breaking down a banger of a UFC fight night. Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan, the Hangman Hooker. You guys just watched Belal Muhammad say that training with young guys is kind of like the Epstein list or Epstein's Island without the sex. So that was a totally normal quote from him. And he's going to be in the co-main going up against Ian Garry. Doesn't get any better than that. We got Shamil the Meal on this card. Waldo Cortes-Acosta coming in on 18 days notice to fight Shamil the Meal. Orolbai is on this card. He's wholesome. Horiguchi's making his return back to the UFC. Alex Perez on this card too. Volkan Oezdemir. People forget, man, he fought DC for the belt 10 years ago or something like that. But overall, a pretty stacked card in Qatar. It doesn't really get much better than this for a fight night at the end of November. So I'm really excited for this one. The rest of this card's absolute jobbers, other than what I name absolute cans. But before we get into this breakdown and predictions, remember to like, comment, subscribe. On the road to 100 subscribers. Appreciate all the support on the TikToks and the Instagram. Dustin Poirier commented on TikTok, so we are close to switching up on all of our day ones. Curtis Blades commented on one of my Instagram reels too, so the days are numbered. If you not subscribe right now, you might never get any acknowledgement from me, but that's big for the channel. Curtis Blades, we will be riding with you for forever. But now let's get into this, starting off with the early prelims opener of Marek Bujilo versus Denzel Freeman. I think Freeman was initially an underdog in this, but I'm going to go with him. Bujilo is kind of just all of his wins are against random Polish dudes in Poland. Freeman, fun fact about him, he subbed Steven Asplund, who just got a contract from Dana White's Contender Series after like a nasty KO, and he's pretty solid and was on a nice win streak after losing to Denzel Freeman. Freeman, he has really nice finishing power in his hands. He can grapple pretty well, and he can defend takedowns at heavyweight. So what that means is he actually has skill. He's not a jobber of a heavyweight. And along with his experience in LFA, he's also fought in the PFL. Again, Marek Bujilo, he's just this large-ass Polish dude who's going to spam overhands and chase finishes with his grappling, in my opinion. And I could see Marcus Freeman, not the fucking Notre Dame coach, Denzel Freeman kind of reversing a takedown along the fence, catching Bujilo with like a right hand, and then finishing him on the ground. That's kind of how I see this fight going. Don't have a ton to say about this, but Denzel Freeman, 6'1", 77-inch, kind of a fat 6'1". I mean, think about it. Me and him are the same height, and he weighs 90 more pounds than me, which is absolutely ridiculous. Maybe I need to bulk up the heavyweight instead of the division, but Denzel Freeman, we're going to go Denzel Freeman by round 2 TKO in this one, somewhere where he catches Marek Bujilo by reversing a takedown along the fence, hits him with a right hand, and finishes him by ground and pound TKO. Moving up the card, we go to Naurdiev Aliev versus Shamrock. Shamrock, the first of the Paddy Pimblett boys that we're going to be seeing on this card. And I think this is a really tough matchup for Shamrock, who I've kind of known a little bit just simply through Paddy and a little bit of like, I pay attention a little bit to the scene over there in like England and Cage Warriors. I'm pretty sure that's where he's fighting out of. But Aliev is kind of like a Khabib light. He's Tajikistan, so rare country unlocked. And he's the Tajik Eagle, which I like as a name. It's very unique for him. And again, Shamrock, he's not really bad. He's not bad by any means, but he hasn't beat anybody. He is pretty explosive and decently exciting. And he does a really nice job mixing in his kicks to different parts of the body, whether it's front kick to the body, fucking roundhouse kick, fucking spinning back kick to the head. He's never done that. I made that one up. But he does do a good job mixing up kicks, legs, body, the head. And he also has a really nice job of keeping distance and doing a nice job distance management. And just being overall pretty aggressive. And he can chase takedowns as well. But again, the problem is when you're fighting a guy like Nurul Aliev, these fucking Tajikistan guys. I mean, Tajikistan's a new Dagestan is what they're saying. And he's a really strong grappler who gets a ton of control time. Again, very Khabib-like in terms of maybe not as much ground and pound that Khabib had, but he can get those submissions. He could chase takedowns and get a ton of control time. I meant to say he actually has ground and pound I would put similar to Khabib, but not the submission game. And the one thing I'll say, if you are to pick Shamrock in this, he does have he definitely has a size and reach of 1 inch on both sides. and has an explosive game, so he could disrupt Aliev. And who knows, maybe this is just a card for Paddy Pimblett's boys. Maybe Luke Riley also fucking flukes something. But I lean Aliev just by smudging Shamrock with his wrestling. So I'm going to go Aliev by decision. I just think this is a tough debut for Shamrock. And when in doubt, when you're on these prelims, just pick the dude who kind of has that heavily grappling style, and especially a dude who's making his debut. Tough debut for my guy, Shebrok, as I just burped right there and almost died. Up the card, we go to Ryan Loder versus Ismail Naurdiev. He's Moroccan versus the Californian here. And I'm going to lean Ryan Loder here. I'm kind of 50-50 here. I think Tapology, or at least the fans, say that, what's it called? That Naurdiev is going to win this fight. But both these dudes are 1-1 in the UFC. Ismail, he lost to Iron Turtle, and Loder got finished by Almakhan, who, you know, we broke down his fight. What was that? Vancouver, and he lost to Yusri Belguri. So that's not a bad loss by any means. Both these two dudes don't have bad losses in the UFC. Ismail, he beat a bum in Bruto Silva, and most of his fights as a professional, he just takes a decision. And I think Loder is a lot more technically sound and just better overall as a fighter. He is kind of chinny, though, so that worries me slightly, but he's a better wrestler than Ismail Naurdiev, and I just think he wins by boring smudge decision. I'm pretty sure this is one of Fluffy Hernandez's boys. I think I saw them training together, or maybe Fluffy posted them on IG or something, that they were together in fucking Qatar. So I'm going to lean Ryan Loder by decision, as there's a fucking bug flying around my room right now. But I'm going to go Ryan Loder by decision. Listen, of all the prelims fights, this is kind of the one I have the least to say about. Neither one of these dudes particularly excite me. They don't get me hard. It's as simple as that. So I'm going to go with Ryan Loder by smudge decision. Just uses his grappling and his wrestling prowess to win this fight. Up the card, we go to Beksat Almakhan versus Alexandre Topuria. And I'm going to go with Topuria here. This is a pretty fun matchup. I think Topuria wins by decision. He's a much cleaner striker than Beksat, and is a lot, you know, and Beksat's a lot more wild in his striking, where he's kind of overextending himself, leaving himself open to get hit bad. He does have more KO power because of this, and although he's a lot quicker and a bit more explosive, I just think Topuria can kind of keep him at range, and he could just win the fight that way. And Topuria, he's not going to miss. He'll stay kind of in that high guard, you know, just being smart with his hands, and won't overcommit to his shots. And again, Beksat's going to get wild. I think that's going to cost him in this fight. And the one thing I'll say about Alexandre Topuria that worries me is that he went to the decision with Colby Thickness, who he might be one of the worst fighters that I've ever seen in my life. And listen, if Colby Thickness sees this one day and he wants to scrap, I'm not even worried, because he's absolutely terrible on the feet. He does have good grappling, though. He could take me to deep waters that way, but his striking is absolutely horrific. In his last fight versus, it was a random dude from Africa. I forget his name, Mufasa. I'm not even trying to be racist, or Musasa. It was something like that. And he looked absolutely horrific on the feet, almost like he was hurt, but I just think that's what Colby Thickness looks like all the time when he's fighting. And he somehow won that, but Colby Thickness absolutely sucks, and Topuria took him to a decision win. And Topuria, even, I'll say this, even though Colby Thickness has good wrestling, he still was managed to out-wrestle him. So that was kind of a plus for Alexandre Topuria. Again, I think he'll do a good job staying at range in this fight, not overcommitting to his shots, mixing in his wrestling when needed to. And he's a smart enough fighter, like, he's a coach of Ilya, obviously, so he really knows how to game plan nicely. And you also have Ilya in your corner, so I don't really think he's going to do anything stupid that, like, puts him in harm's way in this fight. And Beksat, I think, is just going to have a harder time landing clean on a dude who's very technically sound in Alexandre Topuria. And I also don't think he's going to out-grapple Topuria either. So I think this is going to be a tough fight for Beksat Almakhan to win. So I'm going to go Alexandre Topuria by 29-28 decision. Just think he does a nice job staying in range here, not overcommitting to his shots, mixing up the wrestling, and just him and the Topurias, bro, they do a really nice job game planning for their fights and being smart. So I'm going to go Alexandre Topuria by close decision. Up the card, we go to Abdulrahman Yakhyaev versus Rafael Cerqueira. Cerqueira absolutely sucks. This dude, I think he's got finished in 2 of his last 3 fights. He's nothing to write home about. You will not be telling your kids about Rafael Cerqueira. hold on, what did I had some notes on this. Yeah, he's lost all 3 of his fights. His 2 finishes, he got finished by no, he lost to Julius Walker, and then he got finished by Turkish Power Ibo Aslan, he's okay, and got finished by Modestas Bukauskas. So he hasn't lost to like jobbers or anything. I mean, Julius Walker is nothing really special, but you know what I mean. He just absolutely looked awful, and I think Yakhyaev, who I don't really even think is particularly that good, he's just gonna knock him out because Cerqueira, he absolutely sucks, man. He has no grappling. He has no grappling. He has no striking. He has nothing. He sucks. The man can't do anything, as Stephen A would say. He can't wrestle, can't strike. This brother absolutely sucks. I'm gonna go Abdul Rahman by like a counter punch KO early. I'm gonna say first round just for fun. So we'll go Abdul Rahman Yakhyaev versus Rafael Cerqueira. He's gonna win this by first round finish. Rafael Cerqueira, brother, it's time to find a new job. You could be a model. You look decently. Got some nice facial structure up there. But let's do that. You're also 35. You ain't got much longer. Yakhyaev is a young Turk, so we'll go with him. Maybe he's the new Turkish power because Ibo Aslan not great. But moving on to Alex Perez versus Azu Almabayev. Almabayev, this was supposed to be on the main card, I think, initially, and then it got moved down to, like, what is this, the actual prelim opener? So I'm going to go with Almabayev. Alex Perez, this dude barely fights. He's always hurt. Yeah, he never fights. He's always hurt. And he is talented, though. I'll say this about Alex Perez. He can, wrestle well offensively. He has really strong leg kicks, and he has power in his hands with pretty overall solid boxing. And I know Azu Almabayev is not particularly a great striker, but Perez loses the dudes who are really aggressive with takedowns. And Almabayev, he can chain wrestle really well, has good offensive grappling. You saw Perez kind of get dominated against Muhammad Mukayev, Alessandro Topuria, Tatsuro Taira, and Davison Figueiredo. He got mauled in all those against guys who chain wrestle and are really good at offensive grappling. And when Alex Perez is on his back foot, he's going to lose, and that's what's going to happen here. I think early on, maybe Alex Perez can land some calf kicks, maybe piece up Almabayev early and maybe take a round off of him. But I think he's not going to be able to defend the wrestling well enough in this fight for me to confidently pick him to win. So I think Almabayev, he's just going to shoot a ton of takedowns, maybe get a late submission because Alex Perez kind of gives up his back a decent amount. So I could see a rear naked late from Azu Almabayev. But I'm going to go with him winning by decision. Alex Perez, brother, your time is up in the UFC, bro. You are just on a slide. You sliding away, as Oasis would say. That was a bad joke, but Alex Perez, you just suck. Father Time is fucking ticking. That cue the bunny with holding the stopwatch or whatever the fuck he's holding meme. So we'll go Almabayev by unanimous decision, maybe a late submission in the third round by rear naked choke. If he wins by finish. Up the card, we go to Saigid Izagakhmaev versus Nicholas Dalby. Nicholas Dalby's mentioned a lot on this channel just simply because he seems to fight like all decent welterweights and not really beat any of them, but he has KO power. He can finish dudes. And I'm going to go with Segid. Segid's going to win this fight. Just Nicholas Dalby, it's not there anymore for you. This is a debut for Segid. He's a former one championship guy. He's super explosive. He's a really high level striker. And Dalby's been around for a while, but's on a two fight losing streak. He lost to Rinat Fakhridinov, right? That's how you say that dude's name. And he got badly finished by Randy Brown a few months ago. And he does have wins over guys like Muslim Salikov, Gabriel Bonfim, and D-Rod, who's in federal fucking prison, and the UFC won't say anything about it. I think he's in federal prison somewhere in Mexico. But he's scrappy, but he's on the downturn in his career. He's 41, so there's a 10-year age difference between these dudes. And like, to pick Nicholas Dalby, you have to completely forget that the Randy Brown KO happened. And it's one thing to get, finished, but you're awake. This dude got knocked out so bad he face planted into the fucking canvas. And he's coming back only a few months after getting fucked by Randy Brown. And he's old as shit. I'm going to go Segid Izagakhmaev by second round knockout. Probably comical again. Nicholas Dalby, brother. Danish Dynamite. It is your time. It's your time to retire, bro. That's all I got to say about this. We're going to go Segid Izagakhmaev by round 2 TKO. probably comical finish by an elite level striker. Moving on to the feature fight of the prelims. Luke Riley versus Bogdan Grad. Luke Riley, this is the last of the Paddy Pimblett boys to show up on this card. And Bogdan Grad, he's just a little bald fuck. He's pretty scrappy overall. I think he lost to Tom Nolan in the Contender Series. This is absolute cinema though. Luke Riley, it doesn't get any better than this. He's, again, one of those next-gen Liverpool dudes. I think I'm going to take Bogdan Grad by decision here. He's going to do a nice job pushing the pace and getting takedowns. Get a lot of control time. Again, ton of takedowns from him. Riley can strike. Like, he has good striking to the body. And, yeah, he has good body work, but his takedown defense kind of sucks. He's fought, Bogdan Grad, again, he's fought scary prospects like Tom Nolan. He has UFC experience, which I always kind of, if I'm on the fence with the debut dude, I'm just looking at how much experience does the other guy have. And Bogdan Grad, I think, has enough to kind of win this. I think Luke Riley could definitely win this fight by finish. But Bogdan Grad's not a can. He has good enough cardio and grappling to win this. And I think he's just going to push the pace and overmatch Luke Riley. I think two tough debuts for next-gen Liverpool guys in terms of this is not... these are not necessarily easy dudes to go up against in your debut. So I'm going to go Bogdan Grad by 29-20 decision. I could see where Luke Riley gets a knockout here and makes me look stupid for doubting Paddy Pimblett's boys and the Scousers over there in Liverpool. But I'm going with Bogdan Grad by decision. I just have more faith in his grappling and his pace that he's going to just smudge out Luke Riley. So recap of the prelims, we got Denzel Freeman by round 2 TKO. Nurulo Aliev against Shamrock. We're going to take him by decision, just kind of smudging him out with the wrestling. Kind of similar reasoning with the Ryan Loder versus Ismail Naurdiev kind of fight, where we'll just take him because he's a better grappler in my opinion. Alexandre Topuria, he's going to mix in the grappling well enough in his wrestling, and then just kind of be smart, not overcommit the shots, just be very smart with his fight IQ, and win that by decision. Then Yakhyaev, he's just going to win this by round 1 finish. Rafael Cerqueira, brother. Cerqueira. You absolutely suck. You're no good. Alex Perez, we're going to take you to lose to Almabayev by decision. Just Almabayev chain wrestling, being really aggressive offensively with his grappling, and Alex Perez struggling with guys who do that. Sigid just finishing Nicholas Dalby. His chin's gone. He's old as shit. 10-year age difference. And Sigid, he's an elite level striker from 1. So I'm going to take him by knockout in the second round. And then Bogdan Grad just going to push the pace, really use his grappling to kind of effectively slow down Luke Riley, who has very suspect takedown defense. So that's a recap of the prelims. Moving on to the main card, we have the main card opener of Kyoji Horiguchi versus Tagir Ulanbekov, who looks like an absolute bird mutant freak. But I'm still going to pick him to win this. Horiguchi, this is his second stint back in the UFC. He was 7-1 in his first stint in the UFC. People forget, man, this guy fought DJ for the flyweight belt 1,000 years ago. So that really shows how elite DJ's wins were at flyweight. Since his departure from the UFC, he's fought in Bellator, fought in Ryzen. Ulanbekov, 6-1 in the UFC. He's the 11th ranked flyweight, but he's bigger and has a big reach advantage in this fight. Horiguchi, he's pretty well rounded. Like, he can grapple and strike, and he has the power, and he can get takedowns. But Tim Elliott took down Ulanbekov, and some other dudes have. So this guy has struggled at times with maybe his takedown defense being a little bit suspect and dudes taking him down. But the guy's been ranked for forever in the back part of the flyweight. I don't think this guy's ever cracked the top 10, but he's always been in that like 11 to 15 range of the flyweight division. I just don't see him getting out wrestled by Horiguchi. I think he gets I think he won't get out wrestled by Horiguchi, but I think he can get takedowns of his own. We've seen Horiguchi kind of get taken down and controlled a bit in Ryzen, and Horiguchi's just kind of chinny and he's old as shit. He's 35. He's fought 39 professional fights in his career, which is absolutely insane compared to Ulanbekov, who's only fought 19. So his chin is a bit gone. And I think you're going to see some fun grappling exchanges, some fun scrambles for these guys. I would like Horiguchi to win personally, just for a little bit more fun. I kind of have a little bit of bias towards Japanese guys because I kind of want to see more Japanese guys win just to get that Japanese market kind of fired up in the UFC again. I think we'll see fun scrambles. I think Ulanbekov will just land more on the feet, use his range effectively, and just be slightly better in grappling exchanges and win this fight by decision. I would love for Horiguchi to win this. It's cool that he's coming back in the UFC after like 10 years, but I lean towards a guy who's been here for a while and been solid for a while. I'm going to go to Ulanbekov by unanimous decision. Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Shamil Gaziev. It was supposed to be Shamil versus Sergey Spivak. And then as I was typing up my notes and getting ready for this video, I get the report that Sergey Spivak is out and Waldo Cortes-Acosta is stepping in on 18 days notice to fight Shamil Gaziev, who I would have picked to beat. I would have picked him to beat Sergey Spivak, and Waldo Cortes-Acosta had beat Sergey Spivak like 2 fights ago, a bit controversially, but he won by decision. Again, Waldo in on 18 days notice after getting eye poked and then brutally KOing Ante Delija. This is his 5th fight in 2025, so he's just the heavyweight Kevin Holland at this point, and which is insane. If he beats Shamil Gaziev, then you're going to start to hear, man, this guy, he could get a title shot. Like, you're going to hear real things like that about Waldo Cortes-Acosta, which is absolutely insane. And this is a dude that I kind of hated for a long time, you know what I mean? Like, Jesus. I was never really a Waldo guy. I kind of thought his fights were pretty boring, and that Ante Delija fight, for how stupid it was, has totally kind of changed my perspective on this dude entirely. So I'm going to go with Waldo Cortes-Acosta to get this done by decision. Like, I like Shamil Gaziev a good amount, but he hasn't really faced any elite competition. I think his best win is over like Thomas Peterson, like his last fight. And the only other like elite or good level guy he fought was Rosenstrike, and he had cardiac arrest and died on the stool in that fight and lost to Rosenstrike. So I think it's going to be a pretty fun blob fight, but I think Waldo's a little bit more skilled at this point. He's shown more that he could push through adversity, like getting brutally eye poked and then knocking a dude out. And again, remember, Shamil Gaziev literally died on the stool against Rosenstrike and had to quit on the fucking stool because he couldn't breathe. He's that fat. And this also might just be the year of Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Obviously, I kind of worry 18 days notice flying all the way to Qatar against the guy in Shamil Gaziev who is good. But I just like him by decision here. And I think he's quickly becoming one of my favorite fighters in the UFC because of just his activity. I don't really think he's particularly exciting. I don't even know if he's really that good. But the heavyweights all pretty much suck, and Waldo Cortes-Acosta has fought a lot of names and is now, 3-1 in the year. His only loss was to Pavlovich. And I'm just kind of liking him to win this. Shamil Gaziev just hasn't fought enough elite level competition, and I don't think he's as well-rounded as a blob as Waldo Cortes-Acosta is. And Waldo is a lot more dangerous than Sergey Spivak. I would have taken Shamil Gaziev just kind of outclassing Sergey Spivak in that fight. And it's a bad look for Tom Aspinall because Waldo Cortes-Acosta gets poked in the eye, fucking continues the fight, knocks out your boy, Tom Aspinall, and then is back in the octagon 18 days later to fight a pretty dangerous heavyweight contender in Shamil Gaziev, because Waldo Cortes-Acosta, he wants a shot at the belt. To Tom Aspinall, we are coming, and we're going to beat you. Waldo Cortes-Acosta by 29-28 decision. Pretty fun fight in itself. Up the card, we go to Jack Hermansson versus Miktabek Orolbai. I'm going Orolbai in this fight. I don't really like that Jack Hermansson's coming back from getting brutally knocked out only a couple months ago against RoboCop and going down a weight division, because he normally fights at middleweight and Orolbai usually fights at lightweight. But he's had a couple of catchweight fights at like 165, so this weight class kind of makes sense for him. And before I get deeper into this is one of the weirdest matchups of all time. I don't know how they decided on it. It's like they spun a fucking wheel and threw darts at names or just picked the most 2 random dudes ever. And I think Orolbai, I don't want to overcomplicate it. I just think he's going to finish him early again. Hermansson's chin is just cooked. Like, you get brutally knocked out by RoboCop, 4 months ago? And Herb Dean let Jack Hermansson get significantly more CT in that fight, because remember, he gets put out pretty bad, and then Herb Dean just watches RoboCop punch him 2 more times in the head while he's unconscious. So whatever. And Orolbai coming off a submission. I think it was a Kimura over Tafik Musayev, and I think he's just going to nuke an overhand, and Hermansson just collapses. I think that's really it. The funny thing is Orolbai, he's normally like kind of this grappler heavy, and Hermansson's kind of this jiu-jitsu dude. So it'll be interesting to see if like the first round knockout doesn't happen, kind of how these dudes approach the grappling exchanges, because they're both pretty good grapplers. But I think Orolbai, he's faster. He's a better fit for the 170 division. And he's just overall a pretty solid striker. He's pretty well balanced. You know, he beat Oezdemir by submission, and that's a pretty good win. And he's just rangier than a lot. He can beat a lot of rangier guys, which he has proven. Bigger, rangier dudes he can beat. So I'm going to take Orolbai by first round knockout. I'm not oversimplifying this. I like Jack Hermansson. But coming back this short after 4 months, after a bad loss to RoboCop, just it rubs me the wrong way, in my opinion. Up the card, we go to Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. And I got Oezdemir in this. Alonzo Menifield, I don't really rate him that highly. Oezdemir is kind of like a pretty good gatekeeper at heavyweight. Like, he beat Johnny Walker and Bogdan Guskov, and it's his first fight in like a year, and his last fight was to Carlos Ulberg, who also finished Alonzo Menifield. And I just don't think Alonzo Menifield is very good. Your performance did not impress me. It did not impress me. That was my shitty GSP. He fought Omar Syed. I just wasn't impressed. It was in the Apex, I think, or some random fight night. And both these dudes are pretty chinny. And Oezdemir, honestly, you think he'd be older for how long he's been in the UFC, but he's 2 years younger than Alonzo Menifield. And Oezdemir, he's more technically sound as a striker. I think he could grapple pretty well defensively. So if Menifield's kind of getting up on the cage, chasing for takedowns, Oezdemir, I think could be do a good job to keep this fight on the feet. He also has pretty wicked calf kicks, Volkan Oezdemir. And I think Alonzo Menifield's game plan is probably going to be just to hunt for takedowns, because that's kind of how it works for him. And I think Oezdemir, again, he has the power advantage. He's a cleaner striker. And he also has a ton of experience over like high-level fighters like Carlos Ulberg, Aliev, Yuri Prohaska, Dominic Reyes. Fought DC for the light heavyweight belt like forever ago. So he's fought a lot of, legit dudes in the UFC. I think he's either going to get a round 2 or round 3 knockout on this. I'm going to go round 2. Just a cleaner striker, more power. Alonzo Menifield, I just don't think is very good. Like that Omar Sy performance, he was having problems with Omar Sy, he's a big light heavyweight. Like, he's really long, but I don't think he's very good either. And Volkan Oezdemir, I just think is going to show levels. He's a gatekeeper. And it's not like Alonzo Menifield's this young prospect. He's old as shit too. He's 38. So I'm going to take Volkan Oezdemir by second round knockout. Moving on to the co-main. Here we go. If you skipped ahead in the video, this is really the only 2 fights that matter. Let's be real. Everybody's here to hear me talk about Belal Bully Muhammad and Ian Garry. And Belal, Bully B, please save us. Bro, Ian Garry, he absolutely sucks. This kid's a loser. Bro, Ian Garry, bro. His kid, that's not even his kid. Like, that's Belal Muhammad talking about Ian Garry. Bro. Kid thinks he's McGregor, bro. That's Belal Muhammad. And I despise Ian Garry. And I've become a fan of Belal Muhammad. Like, kind of similar how I feel about like Leon Edwards. Like, there's certain dudes that you've hated for so long, and then you just like, I like having them around. And Belal Muhammad, I don't think he's washed like Leon Edwards is. Like, he still has some years left in him where I think he'd be effective. And obviously there's a little bit of a worry right now in the welterweight division where you lose the belt and you go on an epic slide in your career. We saw it happen to Usman. Seeing it, we're watching it happen to Edwards right now, where hey, maybe Belal can follow suit. I think he might, because he's going to lose his fight to Ian Garry. And we'll see what happens with Jack Della Maddalena. But I'm going to go with Ian Garry by decision. A 3-round fight just favors him. He can kind of just dance around from range, pick him apart. And he's a bitch for not signing on to a 5-round fight. Although, maybe you don't really want to see Belal Muhammad in a 5-round fight. And that sucks as a guy who likes Belal Muhammad. But I just think Ian Garry, he's so much cleaner on the feet. He's so much more tactical. He's so much quicker on the feet. And he has a big reach advantage in this fight and speed advantage. He can kind of stay at range the majority of this fight and throw kicks and defend Belal Muhammad's takedowns pretty well. And the thing with Belal is I do think he's underrated in the striking in terms of like the Canelo hands thing it's pretty stupid, but he doesn't really cut angles great. I don't really see him cutting Ian Garry off with such elite level footwork and kind of Belal Muhammad landing cleanly a ton in this fight. I think he'll get takedowns, but I think the majority of the time he's going to be shooting from pretty far away because Gary's going to do a good job just keeping distance on him. And Ian Garry also has elite level fight IQ. Belal Muhammad's pretty, he builds good game plans too. But I think he's just going to avoid Belal enough to kind of wait out this fight in 3 rounds, win a boring decision, and just I also think he can grapple Belal a little bit against the cage. He does that pretty well, and he scrambles well, Ian Garry, and he has some solid submission game off his back. So Belal takes him down. It's not like I think this could be some smudge fest for Belal Muhammad. And Ian Garry is, again, an aggressive grappler and striker. I just think he's going to do enough to win. And Belal, you know, he'll do a good job. I think he'll have moments where maybe he lands cleanly on Ian Garry. Like, he can mix up nice kicks to the body to slow you down and feint level changes, like against the cage. He did it to Leon Edwards so much to at least give Ian Garry some problems. And Belal Muhammad saying that he wants to win this fight on the feet, like, slightly bothers me. It's like, do what you're good at, like fucking shooting takedowns against the fence, blasting double legs against the fence, and smudging dudes, because that's what we want to see. I want to see a Belal Muhammad smudge fest. And also, none of his wins about Belal Muhammad feel like age particularly well. Like Leon Edwards, look at the downturn he's on his career. Like Sean Brady, who I think is still very good, like just got nuked by Michael Morales. JDM just lost to Islam. Like, not saying any of these dudes are bad, but you know, they're on a little bit of downturns in their career. Like Wonder Boy, like he beat Wonder Boy. And Ian Garry just moves too much in the octagon for Belal, I think, to get consistent enough takedowns in this fight. And I can't see a world where Belal Muhammad finishes Ian Garry, but I can see a world where Ian Garry finishes Belal Muhammad. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you got to look at a fight that way. Belal Muhammad's not fucking knocking out Ian Garry. So I'm going to go close 29-28 decision for Ian Garry. He'll get the title shot after this, most likely. You know, they're going to book it as Conor versus Khabib 2 with him and Islam. You know, he's going to get on the mic and talk about how he absolutely dominated Belal, dominated Carlos Praches, as he would say. And he battled with Shavkat, man. Like, you're just going to hear like stupid shit like that from Ian Garry and his loser fans on Twitter. He is very good, though. I would really love to see Belal Muhammad get a finish. I just don't think that's going to happen, brother. So I'm going to take Ian Garry by 29-28 decision. And moving on to the main event, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. A matchup we never thought we'd see. I never thought I'd see Arman Tsarukyan back in the UFC octagon. I didn't. That's a nasty line by me. I never really thought I'd see Arman Tsarukyan in the octagon again. I thought GTA 6 would honestly release before I saw Arman Tsarukyan fight again. Both these dudes don't fight for a combination of reasons, whether it's injuries, being fat, pulling out of fights. Like, Dan Hooker hasn't fought in over a year. It was his last fight was against Gamrot. So I'm gonna go, and I think Arman Tsarukyan's probably gonna dominate this. I like Arman here, and I like Dan Hooker too, who I think is underrated. But I think Arman's just gonna show levels. I think he's gonna be motivated to kind of be like, shit, I gotta get a finish in this fight. Make sure it's early too, so I don't take any damage, so I can take that Aliev fight in like January or February. I think Arman wins this by round 2, ground and pound TKO. His ground and pound, his elbows are so underrated. That's kind of how he won the Charles fight. He just, like, when he gets you down, he just sneaky and he just drops fucking elbows on your head. And I think Arman, the only thing he struggles with are like really offensive grapplers, like a Charles or an Islam or like a Gamrot. And Dan Hooker's not doing that. Like, he can wrestle a little bit, but he's not getting like Arman Tsarukyan. You have nothing to worry about it there, at least. And Hooker's weaknesses are kind of, he can get out grappled. And he isn't really nearly as, like, he's slick, but he's not nearly as fast as Arman Tsarukyan is. And Gamrot fucking dropped Dan Hooker, so that could kind of tell you. And I think Arman Tsarukyan, his stand-up is so much better than Dan Hooker. Not Dan Hooker, fucking Gamrot. Arman Tsarukyan, he is underrated boxing, in my opinion. I think when he gets Dan Hooker on the ground, whether it's the first, second, or third round, because it's going to happen within those first 3 rounds in terms of when that finish is going to happen, he's just going to bloody him up with fucking elbows. Dan Hooker has a ton of scar tissue. The dude bleeds so much in every fight. And I'll say this for Dan Hooker, if you want to pick one to win this, like, he has good kicks to the body and like does a nice job blitzing you and being, you know, like kind of a sniper with his punches. And he does a nice job, you know, switching stances. But we've seen him get taken down during stance switches, and Arman Tsarukyan is a smart enough fighter that he's going to read him, whether it's, you know, over the course of a round or two, and just take him down, and that's what's going to lead to the finish. And Arman can also scramble really well. And even though Dan Hooker kind of has that underrated city kickboxing takedown defense and wrestling, but I just think he gets taken down, again, way too often off of those kicks for me to confidently pick Dan Hooker to fluke a fucking KO in this. And I think as soon as Arman Tsarukyan gets Dan Hooker on his back, he's just going to drop elbows and fucking kill him. Like, that's it. That's what I think's going to happen. If Dan Hooker wins this, somehow the timeline's fucking ruined. And then we have to see a Dan Hooker versus Ilya title fight, which would be hilarious. If Dan Hooker gets a title shot, that would be really funny. But in terms of like, oh, who do we legitimately think could beat Ilya Topuria? Like, Arman Tsarukyan, in my opinion, is the only dude in lightweight right now. Like, Paddy Pimblett, I need to see you fight an actual, like a real contender who isn't washed. So maybe he fights Gaethje. If he beats Gaethje, then we could have conversations about you possibly beating Ilya Topuria. But please, Arman, win this. I really don't like you. Like, I like Dan Hooker a lot more than you, but we need you to win simply to get like an interesting matchup for Ilya. And I just don't think Dan Hooker's going to fluke anything in this fight. Please make it Please make UFC Arman versus Ilya. It would be really fun. The two dudes don't like each other. They talk a lot of shit about each other. And that's the fight to make. So that's the card. I'm going to go Arman Tsarukyan by second round ground and pound TKO, just bloodying up Dan Hooker with the elbows. Overall, a really solid fight night. I'm really excited for this one. And, you know, it's got a lot of implications for kind of the future. If Arman wins, you know, we're going to see him versus Ilya Topuria. And January, hopefully, I hope that happens. Unless this is a 5-round war. Even if Arman wins and it's like a 5-round war, then maybe we don't get that fight in January. Because I know they want to set up the Ilya versus Islam sometime late next year, too. And if Ian Garry beats Belal, he's getting the title shot versus Islam. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to get his shot at welterweight. You can book that pretty easily. And if Belal wins, who the fuck knows? I think he's going to fight Cortes regardless, win or lose. So I'm going to go, yeah, overall pretty solid fight card. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We'll get the reaction video out as soon as this card ends. Hopefully it's a banger. Thank you all for watching. The doctor is signing off.